I didn't see the two guys in the water, but from everybody's perspective, that's when Raven told the officer. She said, I was pushing her up, and then I saw the two guys, so I pushed Trin to the two guys, and she slipped away.
There are two things missing in this story. One is 10-year-old Trinity Eslinger, who vanished during what should have been the last peaceful night of a perfect beach vacation. The other, well, a clear picture of what really happened that day. I have to tell you guys, this story is tragic. And it's the story of 10-year-old Trinity Eslinger, who disappeared into the abyss while at the beach on vacation with her family. Now, you know what hits hardest about this story? It's not just that Trinity vanished, it's where she vanished, the Gulf. You know, that beautiful, sparkling stretch of water that lures you in with its calm surface, but doesn't really care who it turns on. So late August, I'll tell you this story. I was on a business trip. My daughter and my 10-year-old granddaughter tagged along, and we took a spontaneous tour to Lauderdale by the Sea. Paradise, guys. White sand, sun blazing, water so clear, it looked like blue glass. But the moment we stepped in, I felt it. That pull, that invisible force just beneath the surface. Now, I grabbed their hands immediately. It took me back to my childhood, guys. Growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, where we were raised on the salt water and sunscreen. Jacksonville's on the Atlantic Ocean, of course. And those waves, guys, I want to tell you, they don't play. I've seen what water can do. So there we stood, 3 generations, hands locked in a circle, the current tossing us, guys, like rag dolls. Me trying to show my grandbaby how to face the waves, how to ride them, in short, and how to respect them. Because the water, guys, it doesn't care how much you love your family. It doesn't care how planned your trip was. It's powerful. It's relentless. But sadly, it's deadly. That's why this story, the story of Trinity, sits so heavy on my heart. One decision to go to a different beach instead of the escape room that the family had planned will likely haunt her parents forever. But do I believe this was some sinister plot like the internet's trying to twist it into? Absolutely not. These weren't careless adults. This wasn't neglect. This was a well-planned trip full of love turned tragic by something stronger than any of them could imagine or control. It's a story we've heard before, but this time it happened under the slipping hands of strangers who tried to help and just couldn't do so. And if you would take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, I would really appreciate it. And now, back to our story. Now, here's where the story starts to bend, because it wasn't just the boaters out there. According to the Paddleboarder, when the boat arrived, 2 men were already in the water, likely from shore, presumably there to help. Now, these may be the same men that Raven, Trinity's mother, says that she pushed her daughter towards in a desperate attempt to save her. Who were these men? Well, we don't know for sure. I don't believe that they've come forward in the public, that is. But they did speak to police, according to the Paddleboarder, and they didn't run away. So they had nothing to hide, as it appears. And still, guys, no one, not even the 2 men, brought Trinity home. So these are the 2 men, presumably, keep that in mind, from shore, and not the 2 men from the boat. So there were 2 paddleboarders together, but this is the niece. This is the one that actually rescued Trinity's mother, Raven, and then brought her back to shore. So this is her version of what happened. I did listen to her, and she seemed very, very absolute about what happened. And she did acknowledge that there was a lot going on. So everybody's perspective may be a little different, but this appeared to be her honest and forthright opinion about what happened. So take a listen. And guys, I think this is important. Now, if you're here for theories, rumors, and shock value, this is probably not the video for you. But if you truly want to understand what happened to Trinity Eslinger from the visual accounts of the people that were there, what the paddleboarder really saw, what the boaters saw, and why her family is still trying to breathe through the unimaginable, then keep watching, because this is where I think the noise stops and the real accounts begin. And I've got the pieces that I think brings it all together and that really matters. I think we've laid it out, verified it, and it's untangled from the people who were actually there.
Hi, I am going to share my detail of events of what happened when Trinity Eslinger was lost in the water at Osteen Beach in Destin, Florida on Thursday evening. So it was probably around 7:15 p.m., I'm thinking, and all of this is my point of view. So if some of the details don't match, like, you guys have to understand that we all saw different vantage points and different points of view. Everything happened very fast. So I was going out on my aunt's paddleboard. I didn't want to go. And she was like, come on, like, it's so fun. You need to do it. Just do it for a minute. And I started paddleboarding out. After about 1 minute, I heard a small voice saying help. And it sounded like a male's voice. I wasn't sure. I looked over and I saw a male in the water. And another male in the water. I wasn't sure if they were adults or children. I thought they were two adults, but I wasn't certain. And so I'm getting distracted by that, and then I look in front of me and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've gotten pulled out, far out, way farther out than I wanted to. The water was completely dark and murky. You couldn't see anything in it. It looked black. And the waves were big, and I started panicking a little because I was like, I'm way too far out. I don't have a life vest and I need to get back. So I start trying to row back, and I'm realizing that it's way more difficult than I thought it would be. And so that's when I start getting serious and using a good amount of my strength, almost all my strength, to row, to turn the paddleboard around. Once I got it turned around, I was thankfully able to paddle back to the shore, and that was what was my sole focus, is getting back to shore to my own 4 children. When I made it close to the shore, I heard the help again, and my aunt was yelling at me because she saw how far out I had gotten, and I was still standing up instead of sitting down because I don't have experience paddleboarding, and I didn't even think sitting down would be smarter. I was just so focused on getting back to the shore. And so I got closer to the shore. My aunt was there, and she was trying to get me to get off the paddleboard. And I said, I can't. Somebody needs help. Like, I have to go. And so I start going towards, and she's still worried about me. She's like, well, sit down. I think at that point I sat down. I really don't even remember. But I go over as fast as I can to the people asking for help. And once again, I'm only seeing 2 males in the water. And the people on the beach are waving their arms and screaming. But it's very hard to hear over the waves and everything. And they had alerted a boat that was, a little further out to come as well. And so the boat was headed towards the people in the water, and I was also headed towards the people in the water. The boat stopped a couple seconds before I got over there, and I was thinking, I saw him get to the two males in the water. And so I was thinking that there was nothing else for me to do when I see the mom's Raven, her head come. To me, it seemed like it appeared out of nowhere. And at the time I thought, did she come from the back of the boat? But now that the post that she's put out and her boyfriend has put out, I'm believing that she was actually under the water, and that's why she came up out of nowhere. And she immediately pops her head up and starts and screams, "Trinity, where's Trinity?" And screaming for her, hoping that she was still right there and could say, "I'm here," or maybe she was in the boat. And you can see the panic on her face. And as a mom, I immediately knew I didn't see her. And so I started feeling that panicking feeling as well. But I just told her, take a deep breath, slow your breathing, take the end. And I thought she could get over to me. She couldn't. So I gave her the end of my oar and pulled her to the paddleboard. She still didn't have the strength to pull herself up on the paddleboard. She was so weak from keeping herself and her daughter afloat for the time that she did. So she said, "You have to help me up." And I said, "Okay, but you can't grab me," because I was terrified that I would get pulled in, and I'm totally willing to risk my life for others, especially before I had children. But now that I have these children and my oldest is not my husband's, I feel like they really need me to be here to take care of them. And so, as a mom, they're my first priority. So I said, "You can't grab me." I put my forearm under her forearm and I pulled, and I said, "Use all your strength." And we pulled her up on the paddleboard. And, of course she's screaming, looking around. Fear set into me that she would try to get back in the water. And so I'm paddling. I did look around, but I didn't see her. And so I just, in my spirit, was like, I have to go back to the shore. And so I paddled back as fast as I could. And that is my recollection. Now we've also had the boyfriend speak out and give his recollection if you want to go watch it. And then I've also spoken to the man on the boat, and he has told me that he got there was actually two men in the water, Raven, which is Trinity's mother, and the Raven's significant other and his son. And so he pulled the son on. He never saw the girl. He was on his boat with a child. I'm not going to give the details out on that. It may have looked like a man to the people that were that were like so focused on where she was at the time, but it was a child that was on board. And so anyway, he told me that there was actually two men in the water, and that is who Raven was referring to, that she gave Trinity over to someone that could swim, was two men in the water that I'm assuming came from shore. And I don't know how, but I did hear as I was going back, somebody say that she got pulled under the boat. I vividly remember hearing that. And so anyways, the man on the boat rescued two men that were swimming, trying to help Trinity stay afloat. They rescued the man that was there, that is Raven's significant other, and they also rescued his son, and then I rescued Raven. And so we all got back to the shore. By then, the police had finally come, because it did take a while for people to call 911. I think they just maybe thought everyone would be rescued, and once again, it was hard to see with the waves and the dark water and all of those things. There was a lot going on. So once I got Raven on board, I was waving saying call 911, and that's at the point that 911 was actually called. I don't know why it wasn't called before that. For the people on the beach screaming, I think some people react in shock, and we could go over this all day of would have done this, should have done that, but it doesn't really matter at this point. I will post a part 2 about, my thoughts and my aunt's thoughts on the water safety and like things to do and how I don't think that's a safe swimming area.
Now let's talk about the boat that came to rescue them. Now there's been a lot of early speculation focused on 2 mysterious men seen pulling Victor and his son from the water. Now some people questioned who they were, where they went, why they hadn't come forward. But as it turns out, they did. Law enforcement confirmed their cooperation, and according to the paddleboarder, these men told her they never saw Trinity. So there was one adult and possibly a younger person, a teen, on a smaller boat, so there was no secrets. Well, let's talk about what happened. What we know so far is that Trinity's mother, Raven, and her boyfriend, Victor, known to his friends as King Vic, had the entire trip mapped out to the hour. They would check into the Airbnb in Panama City Beach with the kids. They ordered pizza for the kids, Caribbean food for the grown folk, and even surprised the children with a trip to the amusement park. Well, this wasn't chaos, guys. This was care. A trip of a lifetime, right down to the fried green tomatoes. So, fast forward to the last day. The weather caused a change in plans. They would push up the boat rental from 1 p.m. to 9 a.m. and had a wonderful time. They saw dolphins for the first time, laughed, had a picnic. It was amazing. Now, around 1 o'clock p.m., they would return the boat and forego the escape room. So originally they were going to take the kids to the escape room, but they had such a marvelous time at the beach the prior days, they decided to go back to the beach on the last day. So in a spur of the moment decision, they drove to Destin's Beach East Jetty. Now, the sun was still high, guys. The water was calm, the kids were playing, and within 4 hours, everything would change. So guys, tell me what you think happened here. Do you agree with me that it was just a tragic accident? Nothing nefarious, nothing sinister? Or do you think there's something else about the story that's being hidden that we don't know about? Perhaps only the police and the witnesses know at this point. So leave a comment and let me know what you think. Now take a listen to Victor's account of what happened. Now Victor was actually in the water. He says that he felt her legs, he grabbed for her, and at some point I believe he had her contained, but that vicious and unrelenting water would probably, if I had to guess, just basically pull her from his arms. And he still can't make sense of how she disappeared. So I'll be honest, I don't believe Victor did anything nefarious. Everything about this trip screams love, planning, and care for those children. But posting on Facebook so quickly, asking people to help identify the boaters who had already brought him to shore might have stripped some confusion that he never intended, right? So because when everyone says they saw Trinity, but no one could save her, it kind of leaves a lot to the imagination. And we all know how things go with content creators, the news, rumors, the whole nine. So that's the reason why people are kind of left scratching their heads. Don't really know how they feel about Victor. But I will say this, I watched his Facebook post several times, right? From start to finish. I did not pick up anything that I thought was nefarious about his character or his spirit. That's just my opinion. I just think that they may have gotten some of the facts confused. Obviously, trauma, panic, fear, of course. So I just think that some things got out of sequence for Raven and for Victor. And we have to keep in mind that people react differently under stress, under trauma. You know, some people just, when they're in shock, they show no emotion. Some people are crying uncontrollably, other people freaking out. So we really can't judge anything by how calm he is. He is a DJ, as I understand it, so he's probably used to talking and speaking in front of people. So I just kind of think it's his personality. But again, that's just my opinion.
Hey everybody, about to go live and talk about some of the things that, well, what occurred out in Destin, Florida, over Trinity Eslinger, Raven Kush, and what all happened. So go ahead and share this. We got a lot to clear up. Of course, it's hard on Raven and Wesley, which is Trinity's parents. But I have some things to clear up for a lot of people who's been guessing what's been going on and what's happening and why this and why that. I'm a first person. I have a first person point of view. I was there, and it was a trip that I planned. So a lot of their responsibility, falls on me as to speaking up for the ones who can't speak up because they're hurt, they're sad. And like, we see all the things that's posted online, and as to people asking like why and what happened and where and when, all that stuff, I have all those answers. And if I don't, I answer any of your questions to the best of my knowledge. And but anything that's foul in my comment section is just going to be ignored, because we do have those people. For the most part, most of the community, they're very supportive and everything. The people out there in Florida, the people here in Arkansas, everybody is really, really supportive. But we have those bad apples. But I'm gonna try to keep up with the comments. Let me see if I can even turn it on. Okay, now I can see any comments when they do come up. But I'm gonna give y'all like a timeline of everything. All right, guys. And I actually been doing a whole lot of driving. I got to Jonesboro last night to get ready and take my kids to Texarkana to be with their mom. So I actually just got back from driving to Texarkana, and this is gonna be very fast because I got to get back to Florida. Like, as soon as this is over, I'm going straight back to Florida. I got some notes right here that I'm gonna try to follow. But yeah, once again, this thing is for clarity, for a lot of your questions. And also make sure you guys are praying for the family. Trin have cousins, of course, her dad, mom, uncles, grandma and grandpa, great grandma, like a big family. All right, guys, and yeah, it's been tough on me. I just found out Trin's favorite song, and as I've been doing all this driving, I've been playing that song over and over. So I'm gonna ask you guys, out of solidarity, to go and listen and download that song and just play it over. That song is Yolanda Adams, Still I Rise. So that's that. But now we're about to get into some details. Oh no, before that, I got this on my notes. I won't say it's ironic, but it's crazy that this happened over Father's Day weekend. And while we were actually on the trip, Trinity and my daughter, they're so close. While we were on the trip, they were making Father's Day cards for everyone. And so yeah, they made Father's Day card for me, their uncles, and Wesley, and it's just something that's just like let you guys know of, you know, Trinity's heart. Like she's a very thoughtful person, very thoughtful. All right, so to start it off, I have to apologize to Wesley. As a father, you know, you have priorities when it comes to your family, and one of those top priorities is the safety and security of your family. And me dating Trent's mother, you know, Wesley, he had to have some sense of trust in me to, you know, let her go on trips and this stuff with me. This wasn't our first time going on the trip. We went to St. Louis, we went to Nashville, we went to Destin. But you have to, as a father, you have to have some sense of trust in another man to, you know, trust in them to provide that safety and security to your child. And I failed Wesley at that part on this past trip. And I'm actually gonna call him. This was fresh on my head, so I'm actually gonna call him and tell him that part. All right, so for the timeline, the part that everybody wants to know, I don't see any comments, so I'm gonna just continue. You guys continue to share, but I'm about to go ahead and get into details right now. The timeline, our trip was set for Tuesday to Friday, which is the 10th through the 13th. Drove down there on Tuesday. We was coming back Friday. Early Friday morning, you know, check out is at like 10 a.m. We was coming back on that day. So timeline, we get there. Our trip was set for Panama City Beach. So we were vacationing in Panama City Beach. All right, a lot of you guys think we were vacationing in Destin. No, we ended up in Destin on the last night, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, we were vacationing in Panama City Beach, had our Airbnb, which was probably like 3 or 4 blocks from the beach. So when we actually got there, the first thing we did was we walked straight to the beach, played out there in the waves and everything, you know, just to get a feel of the city and the water and all of that. The weather was good, so we was like, look, the forecast says it's gonna rain here and there. Well, not here and there, it was saying every day it was gonna be some rain, but yeah, the sun was out. It was some clouds and stuff, but the rain didn't come down. So yeah, when we got there, we went to the beach. And then that was the end of that night. We went back, you know, showered, ordered some pizza for the kids. Me and Raven, we ate at Jaws Kitchen, which is like this Caribbean spot. And that's how that night ended. Now, the next night we had plans to go to St. Augustine Bay. It's a park out there in Panama City Beach, where we got to see an alligator lake, and on the other side of that park, it was like boat drop-offs, and we went for the beach part. There was like this jetty, which is like a kid pool. So we went there, we had fun all that day. Again, it was saying, yeah, it's gonna rain. There was no rain, it was sunny, weather was perfect. We was there, enjoying life, right? After we went there, what did we do on Tuesday? Yes, all right, so after we, this is Tuesday, so this is our first full day. After we went there, we went home again. We was driving home, we saw this restaurant that we wanted to go to. We drove home, showered, washed up, went back to the restaurant. We were just trying to show the kids a real good time, and we was going all out for them. We had the kids eating oysters and shrimp baskets, and that was just trying new things. Fried green tomatoes. It was beautiful, honestly. And after that, we surprised them, and we took them to an amusement park, Ray City. We went to Ray City, and they got to do the log drop roller coaster, driving go-karts, bumper cars. Like I said, we was just going out, making sure they had a great time. Then that night ended. Yeah, we just ended there. We just had some Hot Pockets and stuff at the house for everybody to eat, and we slept it off. And then the next day is the final day. This is Thursday. This is our last day down there in Florida. And this is where things get tough. So we had a boat rental, and this is also where some of the confusion come in that needs to be cleared up. We had a boat rental for 1 p.m. so in the evening, but like I said, like the forecast was just showing rain throughout the whole time that we was there, and it showed that it was going to rain at 1 p.m. So I woke up at maybe 5 or 6 checking the weather, and as soon as the people opened, the boat rental people opened, I called them and I was like, we agreed to, let's see if we can push this thing up to 9 a.m. So we rented that boat at 9 a.m. and man, it was a beautiful day. One of the things to clear up, a lot of you guys were saying, you guys seen the video of Raven driving that boat, and a lot of you saying, oh, they're driving so fast, and why this kid don't have a life jacket on, all that kinds of stuff. We was in a pontoon boat. They don't go very fast at all. Pontoon boats go 18 miles an hour, while there's other boats by us going 40, 50 miles an hour, flying past us. So it may have looked like it in the video. We weren't. It's a cruise boat. We weren't going fast. It's a cruise boat. But anyway, that day started out perfect. We got a chance to see like the U.S. Navy ships out there in the bay, or the lagoon, whatever you want to call it. Got to see Coast Guards. We got to see dolphins. They got to see dolphins for the first time, y'all. We got to the Shell Island and was on like a sandbar, and we was just snorkeling. We bought snorkel gear for the kids, and we were just trying to show them a great time. All right, picking up crabs. We was beach hopping, and we had a picnic. And at that picnic, we fixed sandwiches and had juices, grapes, fruits, chips, and like it was one of the best picnics we had. And Trin actually told her mom, she was like, man, Mom, this sandwich is so good. Like it was a sandwich, but that day it was so perfect that everything just seemed like it was wonderful. So something as simple as a sandwich, it was just perfect for us all, But yeah, the time for that boat rental expired, and so we was on our way back, and we turned the boat in, and we was like, man, it's just 1 o'clock. Our original plan for that evening was to go to an escape room that we had seen, but the kids had so much fun snorkeling that me and Raven, we looked at each other, we like, do you want to, I was telling her about Destin and how pretty the water is down there, but after we turned in the boat, she asked me to check like what the weather is like in Destin. So I had checked, and so I was like, what, you want to take the kids out there to snorkel some more? And we was like, let's ask the kids. So we asked the kids. They fell so in love with it. Like, y'all just don't know, it's so beautiful snorkeling, all the stuff you get to see. The kids that were so excited, like when we asked them, like, do you guys want to go to another beach and snorkel some more? They lit up. Everybody, all of them, they lit up. They're like, yeah, yes, let's go. And so we canceled our plans for the escape room to go to Destin on our last day, our last evening, to go out there to the beach. And here's some more clarity on where we were at. So we were at, the locals know, we were at the place called East Jetties. And for those of you who don't know what a jetty is, it's where the ocean and a lake, basically, to put it in simple terms, that's where they connect, okay? And so a jetty is like, it's the jetty that we were at, it was maybe about 3 football fields away from the actual ocean, okay? And so what a jetty is, they pile these great big old gigantic boulders up for like 400 or 500 feet out into the water. They pile them up, and what it does, it cancels any waves from the inlet. It just, and like, it's a shallow place. You have no waves, kids, families, teenagers, preteens, young kids, they're all out, you know, inside that jetty. You know, it's calm waters, and the entire day. So we got there at 3:40. So and I know this because our parking time expired at 7:40. All right, guys. So we got there at 3:40. We were out there for 3.5 hours doing nothing unusual. So the places that we were going, everyone else was going also. A lot of you was questioning like why no one had on life jackets. 95% of the people out there, nobody had life jackets. It's a jetty. It's basically a kid pool that we were at, okay? And so, yeah, we weren't doing anything unusual. We were just snorkeling, looking at fish, looking at crab, like we did at Shell Island. So once again, for some of you who are just logging on, the boat rental was in Panama City Beach, which is like 1 hour and 15 minutes away from where we were at. So that boat rental was only in Panama City Beach. Turned the boat in. We drove to Destin. All right. So the life jackets that we did have were on that boat that was property of the boat rental place. All right, but back to Destin, we were doing normal things, you know, the kids, the smaller kids in the most shallow part, the preteens like Trin and my oldest son, who's the same age as Trin, 10 years old. You know, they're more adventurous. They'll go out into, you know, where the water get to their chest. And so that's what we were doing all day. And then of course the adults and boats and stuff are farther out also. And man, y'all, we've been taking so many videos. I'm not gonna get off track. We've been taking so many videos that they were beautiful video. We was filming to like just make one big old, you know, recap video of what an amazing time we was having. But in those videos, it'll show you like the layout, setup, how the rocks are, how the people are just out there snorkeling, everyone just out there. But back to like I was saying, the small kids would be at the front in the shallowest part. As you get older, the older kids, you know, venture farther out, and adults and boats and stuff even further out. All right, so about 7:05 roll around, me and Raven are on the beach, and I'm in the sand. I'm laying in the sand, playing in the sand, getting sand everywhere. Raven, she's on the little, we had that picnic blanket mat thing out there, and Raven, she was just sunbathing on that, and we were talking and all that stuff. And 7:05, 7:10 roll around. Remember, our parking pass ends at 7:40, so we were actually planning to get ready and go. And so told Raven, like, look, it's about that time. We both in agreement. So yeah, it's about that time. Time to wrap it up. When I say the day was so beautiful, man, when we were wrapping up, I got it on video. There were some airplanes putting on a show, putting on a air show. I'm telling you, like, everything was perfect. But so yeah, it was time to go. Like 7:05, 7:10. I get up, I say, all right, I'm about to go round up the kids and wash this sand off me. Because I had sand everywhere. Like I said, I was laying in it, playing in it, all this stuff. And so I go and tell the kids, hey, it's time to go. And Trin and Kingston, you know, they're older, they got questions. They were like, where you going? You know, I'm like, oh, I'm just about to walk out here, get this sand off my body. And so they walked as far as they were comfortable. Like I said, this was nothing out of the ordinary. Something we was doing the entire 3.5 hours that we were out there. Where they stopped, it was a spot we've already been, everyone already been. And so I was maybe about 10 feet ahead of them, you know, and they were standing there just talking. Nothing to alarm anybody of any danger. And me, you know, I'm dipping to get the sand off my body, you know, rubbing myself down and stuff. And I had sand in my head, so I go up to float on my back. A lot of you don't know me, but some people know that I float. That's my favorite way of swimming. I float on my back, and yeah, I float on my back. I was floating to wash the sand out of my hair, and as I was floating, like
Now, you guys know that I am a conspiracy theorist a lot of the time, but when it comes to people's life, not so much. So in the end, I don't think this was a kidnapping or a plot at all. I don't think there was anything nefarious, anything sinister that happened here with those parents other than the fact that we are no match for the sea. So I think it was a tragic chain reaction, one unfolded in a place filled with joy that ended with silence. And Trinity slipped away in a matter of seconds, despite the presence of a paddleboarder, a boat, her mother, her father, stepfather, or mother's boyfriend, however you want to look at it, and even two people from shore, two men from shore. And still, no one tragically could save Trinity.
I wasn't floating to swim. I was just floating just to stay still, wash the sand out my hair. So I wasn't paddling or anything. I wasn't stroking or anything like that. But after I felt that the sand was all gone out my head, I go into a doggy paddle. You know, so if you know what a doggy paddle is, that's basically swimming on your stomach. And I look, I'm like, I'm a whole lot farther away from Trin and Kingston, a lot more farther, from them, for me to just be floating to stay still. And so I start to, and they're still just standing there talking, looking at me, standing there talking, looking at me, standing there talking. And so I try to swim. I get back on my back and start swimming back to them, or so I thought. And so after I felt that I swam enough to reach them, I go back into a doggy paddle, and I'm in the same position, still further away from them than what I should be. And so I asked them, like I said, all this time, there was no warning signs, no nothing up until this point. So I asked them again, they was just looking at me and talking, just chilling. I asked them again, I was like, I was just swimming to y'all. Was I moving to you? And they was like, no, you weren't moving to us. You was just swimming in place. And so me, knowing what's going on, I didn't want anybody to panic. I said, all right, guys, look, we're gonna walk back to the beach. This where it get tough at. A lot of people who know me know that I bottle up. I'm usually not a guy to show emotion. Whew. All right. But I said, yeah, we're gonna walk back to the beach. But instead of walking, both my son and Trinity, they took their feet off the ground and they was thinking they were gonna swim back to the beach. And that's where I messed up. I knew that I was in the current. I knew since I was in the current that they were in the same one, but they didn't know anything was wrong. My son, he know how to swim a little bit. And earlier in that vacation, I've actually been teaching him how to float and giving him reasons on why. I come to that later. But yeah, they took their feet off the ground, which was their safety net. And when they took their feet off the ground, the current just flowed them to me. And me knowing my son, he had swimming lessons, I yelled at him. I said, Kingston, just float on your back. And he did just that, no hesitation. And he immediately started yelling for help. And Trin, she had her snorkel gear on. So, and I knew that Trin, she wasn't the swimmer. So my focus was on Trin. And I saw my son, he was okay. He floated on his back. I taught him. And he did just that. And so this entire time while we were fighting to save Trin, you know, that's what my son was doing, just floating on his back the entire time. But when they floated out to me, when that current brought them out to me, I knew right then and there I had to help Trin out. And so my son, he started yelling for help. And that's what got the alarm of everybody on the beach. The people on the beach heard, and they started blowing whistles or waving towels and stuff, trying to flag boaters down. And all that time while that was going on, I'm going underwater, grabbing Trin by her legs and pushing her up, but doing it in a way to where I can conserve energy, but also keep her head above water until, you know, help arrive. And so I'm going up for air, coming down, pushing her up, go up for air, come back down, grab her legs, keep pushing her up. And like I said, I wasn't using all my energy at the time until I saw help. Her mom heard the help screams. And so, remember I said her mom was at the picnic, well, we were at the picnic table. I was in the sand, and not the picnic table, but the picnic blanket. So when I got up to go and wash the sand off my body, her mom was just walking in the shallows of the beach, you know, where the water, it'd hit your feet and then recede, hit your feet. She was just walking in the beach, you know, it was nothing to worry about. But back to where we were at, when she heard the screams and the help calls, she immediately came running and fighting through that water. And she's not the strongest swimmer, but she was the first one to get to us. And as I said, I was pushing Trin up in a way to where I can conserve my energy to not, you know, because I didn't know how long it was going to take for help to arrive. But when I saw her mom, I figured her mom was, I was pushing enough to where we were. I figured I was pushing enough to where we gotten back close to the shallows. So when I saw her mom, I figured her mom was, walking. And so I gave her a real big push when I saw her mom. Wasn't worried about conserving no more energy anymore. I gave her a real big push. And she actually flew past her mom. And her mom had to go get her. And immediately after I gave that big push, there was this boat that came. And I was at the front of the boat. And I saw that they grabbed my son from floating. They grabbed him out and pulled him up on the back of the boat. And I saw like this little hook to hold on to. So I was swimming to that hook, and one of the people on the boat came and he was like, "You need help?" I was like, "No, just go get them." And so I just grabbed that hook and just held on to the hook. But when the boat stopped, it was spinning, and it actually spent me the opposite way from seeing what was going on the other side of the boat. And so from right now, I got to give a point of view from Raven's point of view, and from like I seen like the paddle boat lady comments. And so yeah, as I was holding on to the hook, a lady on the paddleboard paddled out. And remember I said Raven was she had trend, but I thought she was on sand, and I thought she was walking, so I thought everything was good. But Raven told me later that she actually wasn't walking, she was doggy paddling also. And so basically where I left off, she took over. And I wasn't aware that what was going on. For one, I thought she was walking in sand, and for two, I was holding on to the boat, and the boat was spinning in the opposite, spinning me away from what was going on. But those two guys that was on the boat, at first I thought they came from the beach, but from the paddleboard lady perspective, the two guys that were on the boat, they were the ones that got into the water and they grabbed Trin. Well, Raven pushed Trin to them, and they had her. And from Raven's perspective, she said, I pushed Trin to him, and they had her. And there was no more struggling. Trin was, we were good, everything was good. And I'm guessing that the two guys thought Raven couldn't swim also, as much as Trin couldn't swim. So there was a moment right there where, not to speculate, but from perspectives, they also tried to save Raven. And from them trying to save Raven, that's when Trin slipped away. And still, I don't know what's going on. And finally, that boat spin all the way around to where I can see. And what I see is the paddleboard girl made it to Raven, and Raven was on the paddleboard. And I asked Raven, I said, "Where's Trin?" And she said, "I don't know." And so there were, like, again, two guys that were on the boat. And Raven, she explained to me later that that there was a skinny guy and there was a big guy. I actually saw when they were pulling my son on the boat that there was a skinny guy and there was a big guy. So I can say that the two guys that jumped off the boat were the same guys that pulled my son up. But the skinnier one, he was like an older teenager with hair maybe about six inches long. The bigger guy was like yeah, just an older man. Not older, he was probably like in his high 30s, with a little buzz cut. I remember that much. But she did say the skinny one, which I perceived to be the teenager. He immediately, when he saw Trent slip away, he immediately tried to go after her. And from Raven's account, he was, coming up, going back down, coming up, going back down. And at the time that was happening, the bigger guy was taking the boat to the shore. And this was as soon as I asked Raven where was Trin, the boat got into motion and couldn't let go because, you can get caught up under them propellers and all that stuff. But so that's what happened, and that's how she was lost. And the paddleboard lady brought Raven to the shore. And after that, that's when it was all, everything was happening so fast. It seemed like immediately there were Coast Guard and lifeguard right there searching for Trin. Like everything was going so fast. And me and Raven, we were separated, but there were police officers from different departments coming out saying, trying to get an understanding of what's going on. So we're answering different departments as they come out in different shifts. You got the Coast Guard, got to know what's going on, the local sheriff department, the local police department. I don't know if game wardens or anything was out there, but all of them have to come and get a report. And so at first, early on in the night, me and Raven was like a little separated. Well, I do know that I did go to her to get Wesley's number so I can hurry up and call him and let him know, because she was on the phone with her mom and also talking with the officer, and I was talking with the officer. So I needed to make sure Wesley knew what was going on before, things get on the internet and just spread, and then he find out that way. That would have been terrible. But yeah, so in the midst of all of that, we're answering police officers, and then at the time this all happened, the sun was still out. It wasn't sunset time yet, but by the time like the third or fourth police department come out, me and Raven were closer by each other, like physically closer by each other. And that was when the first time I heard of the two guys, which later I presumed to be the two guys that were on the boat. But like when I was holding on to that boat, I thought it was just, I didn't see the two guys in the water, but from everybody's perspective, that's when Raven told the officer, she said, I was pushing her up, and then I saw the two guys, so I pushed Trin to the two guys, and she slipped away. That's when I first heard about the two guys in the water. Let me get back to the notes. But yeah, we do want to know who the two guys are that was on that boat. So if anybody know any locals down that way, I know you guys been following the story pretty closely. If you know them, message one of us. We just want to get to know them, see who they were. And then after that, we stuck around for a long time, and up to the point where the Coast Guard was like, it got to a point where they could do all that they could do this night, because it was so dark. They ran their radar scans and their thermal scans, and so and visibility was gone because the sun had set from how long we were out there. And so we went back to the hotel, to the Airbnb. And remember, this was our last night, our final night. And so I do have to give some thank yous out. The next morning we woke up early and I called the owner of the Airbnb. And I had to leave a voicemail explaining what had happened. And he texted me back, and so I had to call him again. And he said he's gonna check his books to see if anybody booked their Airbnb, so to see if we could stay. But he called back again and said somebody got their Airbnb, y'all can stay up until 12. And he said I'm gonna pay for a 2-night stay at the hotel for you guys. And so Brian DeGormo, that's his name. So huge thank you to Brian for providing.
All I'm saying, guys, is sometimes there's no villain. Just a moment that moved too fast, a current too strong, and the pain of knowing someone was always just a second too late. And we will follow the story, guys. We will give you any unfolding details about what happens. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Southern Confidential. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you next time.